everyone, and welcome back to According to Addie. And I know I've been changing my channel name so many times, but hopefully this is the last change. So welcome back to my channel. I am your host Addie, and in today's episode we will discuss a case that is truly evil. A quick disclaimer, all the names have been changed for privacy purposes. So for the victim, we will call her Demi, and the killer, we will call him Andy. Demi was born in Almaty, Kazakhstan, and her friends and loved ones describe her as very smart and ambitious. After graduating from high school, Demi went on to study for an interpreter. She then continued her studies in Atira, where she landed her first job. Later on, she would go to China to get her master's degree in business. In 2015, she returned from China with her daughter. So, as you can see, Demi was a very studious, smart person. After returning to Kazakhstan, Demi found a job in a bank, and this is where she ends up meeting Andy. Demi and Andy were working in the same building but for different companies. During one of the corporate events, Andy notices Demi and he immediately tries to make a move. Demi ends up actually really liking Andy. After meeting him, they end up spending a lot of time together. They would often go to restaurants and bars after work, and at first everything seemed to be going good, but Demi's happiness wouldn't last long, as she later on would find out that Andy is married and he has 3 kids. So this blossoming romance ends up turning into a love triangle. Demi would tell Andy to pick between her and his wife, and Andy's wife would often call Demi. She would even go as far as to call Demi's friends and tell them to tell Demi to stop seeing Andy. And this is where things start getting really ugly. Because of this, Andy and Demi would often fight. Demi didn't want to be Andy's mistress, so she told him that he would have to choose between her and his wife. And Andy actually told Demi that he would leave his wife for her. At some point, Andy even ended up moving in with Demi and her little daughter, but their problems wouldn't stop there. On one occasion, they got in a fight and it escalated so badly that Demi would have to hide in the bathroom with her daughter. And Andy, he ended up breaking the bathroom door. On another occasion, Andy and Demi went on a date, and after their date, Andy took Demi to the mountains to catch the sunset, and this is where he wanted to get intimate with Demi, but she refused. However, on that night, Andy would end up essaying Demi, and in order to get away from him, Demi would even have to jump out of the car. She later on went to the police and pressed charges against Andy. However, later on, she dropped her charges and the two of them got back together. According to Demi's friends, every time she would try to leave Andy, he would harass her and threaten her. He told her that he had intimate videos and photos of her, and if she ever dared to leave him, he would send these videos to all of her friends and family. They say that Demi was genuinely scared of Andy, but luckily for Demi, one of her best friends found a job in Dubai, and she sent the link to Demi so that they could apply together. And Demi applied for this job, she passed the interview, and she was ready to move to Dubai. Demi's family says that she was very excited. This would be a new beginning for her, and she would finally be able to get rid of Andy. She went on as far as to legally change her name in order to ensure that Andy wouldn't be able to find her. Demi's flight to Dubai was at 2 a.m. and at 9 p.m., Andy ended up coming to Demi's house, begging her to have a talk. They would talk for 1 hour, after which Demi came back home all in tears and covered in bruises. When her mom asked her what happened, Demi said that Andy was extremely angry with her and he didn't want her to leave to Dubai. He resented Demi because he left his wife to be with her, and now she was leaving to Dubai. Unfortunately, Demi did not contact the police after that incident, but she still ended up taking her flight and going to Dubai. After Demi finally made it to Dubai, Andy would still try to get in touch with her. And he would go even as far as to contact all of Demi's friends, telling them to tell Demi to return to Kazakhstan. Otherwise, he would fly to Dubai and kill her. And this terrified Demi. She asked all of her friends not to tell Andy where she worked or where she lived in Dubai. She would constantly change her SIM cards just to make sure that Andy couldn't track her down. But this maniac somehow got in touch with Demi's roommate, and he would send her Demi's nudes and their sex tapes. He told Demi's roommate Olga that he would send these videos to all of Demi's friends and colleagues in Dubai, that he would humiliate her if she didn't get in touch with him. And the most disturbing part is that Demi was not aware of these intimate videos, and they were taken without her consent. This situation really worried Demi, so she contacted Kazakh embassy, letting them know that she was scared for her life and she was receiving death threats. She also warned her boss and the HR department of her company, letting them know what she was dealing with. On March 27th, 2019, Andy arrives to Dubai, and there he was picked up by a man named Sam. Sam and Andy didn't know each other, but Sam said that his cousin asked him to pick up Andy from the airport. In the footage, you can see that Andy arrived to Dubai with one small bag and one ginormous suitcase. Andy asked Sam to drop him off in front of the apartment complex where Demi lived. According to Andy, they spent the next 3 days together, and during these 3 days, he got to meet Demi's colleagues and friends, and they would often party in Demi's apartment. They would drink and hang out. On March 29th, Demi's roommate Olga moves out of their apartment temporarily. She said that she didn't feel comfortable living with Andy. However, according to Olga, it looked like Demi and Andy were in a good place, and this is why she felt comfortable leaving them together. On April 1st, Demi's roommate Olga returns to their apartment, and she notices that Demi isn't there and her room is locked. She then sees Andy, and she asks him why Demi didn't show up to work yesterday. Andy says that Demi and him been partying all night, going to clubs, so Demi felt too tired to show up to work. And when Olga asks Andy where is Demi now, he says that she went to work. And to Olga's surprise, once she arrived to work, she notices that Demi isn't there. Demi wasn't there because sometime between March 30th to April 1st, Andy had murdered Demi. On 30th of March, Demi and Andy were in Demi's apartment and they were drinking vodka. At some point, they got in a verbal fight, and this is when Andy would punch Demi and break her jaw. Afterwards, he went to the kitchen to get a knife. He then took the knife and stabbed Demi in the shoulder and in the arm. Demi then tried leaving the apartment to ask for help. Andy stopped Demi and continued stabbing her. He stabbed her in total 13 times. According to Andy, that night they were drinking and chilling until Demi went to the bathroom where he claims that she took some drugs. Now, after she took these drugs, she went to the kitchen, took the knife, and came back to the room. Andy claims that Demi didn't want him to leave. Apparently, Andy was supposed to fly back to Kazakhstan that night, and Demi wanted him to stay for longer. Then, he claims that Demi began accusing him of having another girlfriend in Almaty. She then started insulting his family and his kids, and she began just swinging the knife at him. He says that he was trying to fight her to get the knife out of her hands, but he says that Demi was stronger than him, that he was a lot weaker than her. Next thing he knew, he was grabbing the knife and Demi was on the floor. He said that he completely blacked out and he couldn't even remember stabbing her. He just saw Demi on the floor, there was a pile of blood, and the knife was in his hands. And honestly, this sounds like something straight out of Bishimbayev's playbook. It's just so unbelievable. After he realizes what he had done, he doesn't even consider calling an ambulance right away. He instead grabs his phone and starts Googling laws of UAE. And once he realizes that for murdering somebody, he could get a death sentence, he panics. He says that he was too scared of getting caught. He didn't wanna go to jail in UAE and get a death sentence. So what does he do? He contacts Sam, the guy who picked him up from the airport, because his luggage was still in the Sam's car. Sam brings the luggage to where he was staying, and Andy just shoves Demi's body inside the luggage. He then begins cleaning the apartment to get rid of any evidence. He takes all the items that had blood stains or his fingerprints on them, and he just tosses them to trash. And after all of this monster just goes to sleep. And he clarified that he didn't go to sleep in the same room where he killed Demi. He went to sleep in another room because he was very tired. The next morning, he contacts Sam again and he asks Sam to pick him up and drive him around the deserts in Dubai. Sam said that Andy was acting extremely weird. He looked very agitated. He was talking to himself. He was saying something about a fight, a knife, stabbing, and then eventually he told Sam that he stabbed somebody and that person is now dead. After hearing this, Sam tells Andy to get out of his car and to never contact him ever again. But unfortunately, upon hearing this, Sam did not contact the police. He was later arrested in Dubai with misprision of felony. And now that Andy got kicked out of Sam's car, he began looking for cars to rent. He ended up finding a car and he put the suitcase with Demi's body in the passenger seat. According to Andy, he was driving around Dubai not knowing what to do. At some point, he considered surrendering to the police, but he was too scared. He kept driving around Dubai until he found a secluded area. This was close to the border with Oman. He realizes that there is nobody there. He quickly drops the luggage with Demi's body inside it and then just covers it with some sand. He then quickly gets back in his rented car and drives to the airport. His goal was to get out of UAE as soon as possible because again, if he was caught in UAE, he would be facing a death sentence and he was extremely scared. By the time the police in Dubai found Demi's body, Andy was long gone. Honestly, it's a real shame that Andy didn't get caught in UAE, where he would face death sentence for his crime. Instead, he fled to Kazakhstan, where he would spend next 4 years in hiding. And honestly, I find it really mind-blowing how it took Kazakh authorities 4 years to find this guy. He said that during those 4 years, he was moving from city to city, renting apartments one day at a time, all in order not to get caught. But luckily for all of us, eventually he ran out of luck and he was caught in Shymkent and later extradited to Almaty, and the trial against him had finally begun. And honestly, I hope this monster gets the harshest sentence possible and will just rot behind bars. This guy is truly diabolical. And Demi's poor family didn't even get to say goodbye to Demi. Since her body was found and examined in UAE, in order for her body to be transported to Kazakhstan, it would cost her family $25,000. And unfortunately, they couldn't afford it. So Demi's body was cremated and her ashes were sent to her family. And they never got to say goodbye to her, to see her one last time, or give her a proper burial. Demi's mom says that Demi's daughter to this day waits for her mother to come back, which is extremely heartbreaking. And honestly, this monster Andy never even considered the fact that Demi had a young daughter or that he himself had 3 kids. He was extremely selfish in all of his actions, and he deserves the harshest sentence possible for what he had done. Well, this is it for me today. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode, and I will see you next time.